Hey, shredding fans and listeners. Welcome back to another episode of the Shredding for Gold podcast. For those who do not know me, I am the host of this podcast and the star athlete, Emily Trepanier. And so happy to have you here and listening to this podcast. This is episode 7 of the Shredding for Gold podcast. If you would like to listen to this podcast or check out the website, check it out at www.wyexcuse.com/shredding-for-gold. And we're also on Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts, so you feel free to ask your assistant to play the Shredding for Gold podcast, and hopefully your assistant will listen and play the podcast for you. This is episode 7 of the Shredding for Gold podcast, and we have an exciting episode for you, the listeners, to listen to. And before we get started, I just wanted to let you know that soon we will be launching a website called shreddingforgold.com, where you'll be able, and where it'll give you another platform to listen to the podcast and lots more information on the podcast and hosts and just a whole bunch of more information for you guys to check out. And so that's going to be launching soon, so stay tuned for that exciting announcement once we get everything set up on that website for you guys to check out. We plan on doing a bit of a watch party celebration sort of thing to launch that website once we've got everything a bit more set up on the website. So stay tuned for that, and we'll be sure to let you all know when that happens. So episode 7 on this podcast, we are flying back to the mountains, and we are going to chat with hill coach Isaac Rigby. So for those of you who listened to past episodes, we interviewed Ethan Rigby, who happens to be Isaac Rigby's brother. So today we're going to interview Isaac on the podcast, and very excited as usual to be interviewing someone here on the podcast. And so that's what's going to happen for episode 7. So hope you all enjoy. Let us know what you're liking about the podcast. If you leave us a review, rate us. That way we know what's going well and what we need to change. So without any further ado, let's get started with episode 7, where we will be interviewing Isaac Rigby, who was my hill coach in Ontario. Let's listen in. Okay, welcome to the Shredding for Gold podcast. Today I'm interviewing Isaac Rigby. So Isaac, how is it going?
It's going awesome. How are you doing, Emily?
I am good. Thank you for coming on to the Shredding for Gold podcast. Very excited to be interviewing you.
No worries. I'm excited to do the interview. I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's get started. Question number 1. Who are you? Describe what you do and some of the interests for the listeners. And let's just leave out the winter sports for right now.
No winter sports?
No winter sports, not yet.
Oh, wow. Okay, I could just a little what I'm doing right now.
Exactly.
So I'm a student at Western University, which is in Little London, Ontario. Which, I don't know if all your listeners know where that is, so it's kind of about 2 hours outside of Toronto. And I'm at Western. I'm doing a dual degree with health sciences and business at Ivy there. So I kind of have a diverse range of interests when it comes to sports and all things athletic. I love doing that. I've played, football, hockey, soccer, everything. I won't say any of the winter sports. Don't worry, I'm like winter. I'll leave it at that.
You can mention them, but just don't say them boldly.
Okay, gotcha. So I've snowboarded, hockey, soccer, football, for years and years growing up. I love being active. I love working out. I love getting outside. I played football at Western, so that was a really exciting experience. So yeah, I mean, I guess that kind of gives an intro to,
That's awesome.
to some of my things. I don't know if there's anything else you want me to go a little bit more into.
No, that's really good for now.
Cool.
So now we're gonna get into your winter sports. So how did you get interested in winter sports to begin with?
Well, that's a good question. I think honestly, when I was younger, we were always just on the go all the time. So when football and soccer ended in the winter and it was kind of just hockey, we were like, okay, what else can we be doing? So I think it was around when I was 8 or 9 is when I got into the winter sports, and I started actually skiing, I think my first season, but then really quickly we moved. I know. Really
I started out as a skier too. So
yeah, we all probably started. Most of us started as skiers, right? And then we realized we wanted to try something else, maybe a little cooler. So then I got into snowboarding, and I snowboarded for. I've been snowboarding for a long time, probably like 10 or 15 years at this point. But yeah, so I kind of just fell in love with that and loved, getting out to different mountains and being able to travel around and have a sport that you can bring with you. Because a lot of the others, pretty much all the other sports I played, you needed a team and you couldn't just do it all by yourself. But for this, you could go with your friends and kind of go whenever you wanted and explore all these different hills around Ontario and different parts of Canada and even outside of Canada. So I think it was just really exciting to, be able to do something active in the winter and get outside.
For sure. And what were some of your favorite hills that you like to snowboard on?
Oh, that's recently.
Let's say
I mean, I love going out west. So in Ontario, the hills don't really compare anything to that. So I mean, you gotta.
Nice
I guess
in Ontario,
but yeah. I mean, I appreciate Bowler for what it is.
Sure. Oh yeah.
Bowler bump, but when you compare that to Sunshine or Lake Louise or Whistler, it's like probably smaller than their bunny hills. So
right.
So I mean, that's probably my favorites that I've been, and I mean there hasn't been much traveling in the last couple of years, but
because
Lake Louise and Sunshine are up there for me. I'd love to get out and do a couple more kind of further into Alberta, BC there.
That's cool. I actually really wanted to try Lake Louise and that sun one.
Sunshine,
yeah. I almost
they're awesome hills.
Yeah, I actually almost went there a few years ago for a race camp, but it ended up getting canceled. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they're super nice. A lot of good backcountry stuff as well, going like some good tree runs, that kind of stuff. I'm really into that.
Awesome.
More so than the train park these days.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool. So continuing with the theme of the winter sports, how did you get involved with the London Track 3 program, and how many years have you been involved with them?
Well, you're testing my memory now.
It's a quiz, remember, it's not a test.
Right, it's a quiz. So I probably got involved with Track 3 in, I want to say, like grade 10 or 11. So I actually, so maybe just a bit more context, I after I had snowboarded for a couple of years and I turned 16, I went and did my CASI level 1 snowboard instructing certificate so I could actually teach at Bowler. So that's, when I was 16, so in high school, I started teaching lessons at Bowler. And then through that, I got a couple more certifications, my level 2, the park, Canada snowboard. And then eventually we as in my brother and I came across Track 3, which is this awesome program in London where they, you're essentially teaching snowboarding and skiing to, a whole bunch of different people that have different needs than, the students you normally teach. And they offer those lessons. Like, so for example, that's where I met Emily, right?
That's where we met.
Starfish, exactly. So yeah, I kind of got involved just because I was teaching at Bowler, and we would always see the track 3 coats out there, and you kind of wonder, okay, what's going on there, and how can I get involved? Because I thought it was an awesome program.
For sure, that's amazing.
Yeah,
I'm super
so
happy
I've been doing
that
that
you
for a
guys.
long time now.
Yeah, I'm super happy that you and your brother Ethan got involved with the track 3 program. If you didn't, we wouldn't have known you.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
awesome. So if memory serves me right, you and Andrew, who is another one of my hill coaches for the listeners, just in case you didn't know who they were, you guys took part in a special visually impaired coaching certification a few years ago. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and what you learned from that?
I think that was actually Ethan that did that.
Was that Ethan? Oh,
yeah.
Apologies. I thought it
he
was
showed us some of the stuff, though. I know they were doing some really cool things out there.
Okay. Well,
because he did that. That was out west, I believe he did that.
Okay. That's cool. I thought there was something
maybe it was at Blue Mountain.
I thought there was something in Ontario.
I think it might have been at Blue Mountain, actually. I know they were doing some really crazy things. Like they would, to simulate kind of how you go down the hill, right? They wanted them to have an appreciation for what a blind snowboarder would have to experience going down. So they would put like socks or whatever in their goggles so they couldn't see. So instead of just having them close their eyes, right, then they actually had to learn what it's like to trust the person you're listening to in your ear, right?
Right, because if you just close your eyes, you have that temptation of potentially opening your eyes if something's really scary.
Yeah, so you hit a bump or something, right?
Yeah,
you're like, oh, okay, I'm just a little, but you can't always do that.
No, definitely can't do that.
Yeah, no, but I know that was an awesome course, and I don't know if Ethan shared the information about that with you, but I'm sure he would if there's anyone interested in checking it out.
Because I honestly thought it was you that took the course. Oops. Oh, yeah. Okay. That's fine. That's okay. Okay. Prior to being involved in the London Track 3 program, had you taught or coached anyone with varying needs before in any capacity? And if so, describe.
I don't think I formally had taught anyone with varying needs. Especially on anything like snowboarding or skiing.
Right.
That's kind of more extreme and risky, right? I kind of, at the same time as Track 3, I had been involved with some of the Forest City program at my high school, which is for students with varying needs as well.
Okay.
So I would go in on my spares and kind of help out in those classes and help them with their schoolwork and things like that.
That's cool. That was at your high school?
Sorry?
That was at your high school?
Yeah, that was at my high school. So I definitely have some experience, I guess, but you can't really compare it to something like Track 3, right? Where it's you're like, in some senses it's life and death, right? But maybe not that extreme at Bowler. But there's a much bigger level of trust in teaching, right, and communication.
Oh yeah.
Whereas as opposed to like a mentorship, it's more of a coaching, right?
Right.
Coaching and training. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. Awesome. So going back to when you first started coaching me in snowboarding, what were your first initial thoughts when you found out you were going to be coaching a blind snowboarding athlete? And have your thoughts changed throughout the years that you've coached me?
Well, my first thoughts were probably like, I have no idea how we're going to do this. But I was also, excited and kind of intrigued to figure out how you make it work, right? Right. Because obviously, I had heard of blind snowboarders before, but I had never really been aware of how you actually get down the hill, right? For example, I had no idea that it was all through communication with the headsets, right? Yeah. And your bells and everything like that. There's just so many little different signals that you have to take advantage of, right? When you can't see where you're going on the hill. Yeah, for sure. So I think, as we kind of went along, right, obviously we got more comfortable and we were able to understand our communication between each other, right? And I think outside of even just teaching you, it helped me a lot with teaching other students as well, because you have to be creative out there, right? You can't always use the same approach that you're going to use to teach, a 4-year-old
Exactly.
who's snowboarding
Right.
for the first time, right? So
Yeah.
it forces you to be creative and come up with new techniques and new approaches to doing things
For
that
sure.
you might not otherwise think of. So I think in that sense, it was really fun to kind of go through that process and push myself and push you to become a better rider, right?
For sure. Oh, that's good to hear that it's helped you teach other.
Oh yeah. I mean, even just hopefully in my communication skills as well, right?
Yeah,
Because
definitely.
I mean, we kind of learn that together as you go. It's, I mean, what are the right words you have to use? How soon you have to say them, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't
It's a
want
lot
to send you into the forest.
I think that's happened before, but the
It
goal
might have
is
a couple
not
times,
to
but it's all
happen
part of the
before.
experience, right?
It's all part of the adventure.
Exactly.
For sure. That's awesome. So you've touched on this a little bit already, but I want to go back to it again.
Sure.
What are some differences between coaching a blind snowboarding athlete versus an athlete who like an able-bodied athlete that you've discovered? You've touched on it a little bit already, but can you just dive a little bit more, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, I guess like kind of as I alluded to, the major difference is the approach that you're going to take to coach them or teach them, right?
Right.
A lot of with an able-bodied athlete, a lot of the times it's really easy just to do a visual demonstration where you go say, okay, like, look what I'm going to do, and I'm going to show you, like, I'll explain it to you verbally, and then I'll go down and give a demonstration of the drill I want you to do.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas
Yeah.
we had to be a bit more creative in our approach with really making sure our words made sense when we were explaining something, right? Or if there's some other way to walk you through doing it, whether we did that on the snow at the bottom first, and kind of guided you along with the feeling, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, it kind of flips the whole approach that you learn through casting and everything on its head a bit, because you're really trying to make adjustments
Right.
that aren't necessarily something that most students would do, right?
Mhm.
And then when you are making changes, for example, if in your body position or something on your board,
Yeah.
you have to be cognizant of how that's going to really affect things like balance, right?
Yeah.
Because if you change a little and you get on a different part of the hill that you're not used to or something like that, it can definitely throw you off.
For sure. Yeah.
But I mean, I think it's also there's also some benefits too, like,
For sure. Yeah, definitely.
like I think like some students who are able-bodied, they'll see the hill and get scared, right?
Right.
Or they'll maybe overthink it, whereas we have that trust, right? Or that trust between the coach and the
I definitely wouldn't be able to see like the hill and the upcoming turns. I definitely have to just like trust all of my coaches that they're going to tell me the correct information so I know what's coming up. Then just send
exactly.
it.
So you're kind of ready just to take on what comes, right?
Yeah.
So it's a bit more of the fearlessness, right? And the willingness to just to trust the coach and to really try new things, right? Because I remember we're always out there and we say, Emily, try this, and you say, okay. Like you're always very willing to try it, but sometimes other students can get scared to do that kind of stuff.
That makes sense. Yeah, because they can like see what's happening, right? But for me, I can't. So.
Yeah, and I mean, some of the other differences too are some of the really cool adaptive equipment that you get to use. I know one of the things that we used a bit was that snowing, right?
Oh,
the snowing, we used hula hoops, we used bells, all this different stuff to help really give a tactile demonstration of what you want to feel on the snowboard. And I've even taken some of that stuff and brought it back to the able-bodied students, right? Because
I can see how that could be beneficial for some able-bodied students, especially if they're like just starting to learn, right? And I could see how that could help build their confidence and stuff. So.
For sure. And I mean, just for people who don't know, like the snowing and some of those different tools can help with different things, like using your hips to initiate turns, or I guess for the bells, hearing where people are. I haven't used those yet with another student, but like the snowing or the hula hoop, that kind of helps with different things like balance as well, right?
Right.
And getting a feel for how much edge you can use. So I think those tactile things are maybe something that they don't use as much in regular snowboard lessons, that could have some use. And I think it was really cool to learn how to use those. And a lot of it was experimentation too, like what works, what doesn't work, what do we think is going to be the most useful, and then let's try it out and go from there, right?
I don't think you were there in the very beginning when we tried out tethers on my snowboard. That was a disaster.
Oh, I think I might have been. We might have tried that. I do think I remember that. And we just fell right over, right? Because it pulled your edge down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are better for skiers.
Yeah. Yeah. And then for our listeners who want to learn more about some of that adaptive equipment, I actually did an episode about adaptive equipment where I spoke to that a little bit. But I'll also add in a link, because I just found a link that describes a little bit more about the snowing and stuff that
cool.
Isaac just mentioned. So I'll definitely add that in. For sure, yeah, definitely. Awesome. Okay, moving right along. Next question is, I often get asked what it's like to guide someone who's blind down a hill. So I'm curious, what is it like for you? I've asked this to a few of my a few other hill coaches, and it's been really neat to hear their answers. So.
Well, that is an interesting question. I mean, to me, I guess it's kind of like I'm snowboarding through two different perspectives at the same time, right?
Right.
Because I'm thinking, like when we're talking, right? I'm usually behind. We have one behind, one in front, right?
Right.
But like I guess the perspective, kind of how I think about it is, I mean, I'm snowboarding myself and making sure I'm not going to, crash or hit an ice patch or something. But then I'm also looking and trying to envision myself in your perspective, right?
Right.
When does she need to start her turn? What's coming up? Is there a drop coming up? So it's kind of a bit of a multitasking, I guess. Plus,
I was gonna say, is it kind of like multitasking then?
Yeah, but I think you get into a bit of that flow state as well, where you're really focused, right?
Right.
Because you have to be aware of these different things, and I mean, hopefully we can establish that we have that trust, right?
Yeah.
But you don't want to break your trust completely. So I think it's really kind of a cool experience, right? And I mean, I would encourage anyone that's interested to get involved with someone. There's something like Track 3 where you have the opportunity to work with a blind rider, maybe, right? Yeah. To check that out, because it's just a really cool experience and very, very rewarding, I would say, to be able to get down the hill together without, get a couple dabs in at the end.
Yes, dabs.
But make it down the hill, and you fly down the hill faster than me most of the time. So
Really?
Probably, yeah.
That's crazy.
But yeah, I mean, I think I don't know what else I would hit on there, but except for that, it's like a really, really cool experience, right?
That's cool.
It makes it more of a team sport too, almost, which is fun, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so you're working with not only the blind athlete, but like the other coaches that are helping that athlete as well too, right? So
yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. What has been your top 3 favorite memories since you started coaching me? This is a fun one. I like hearing them. So.
Sorry, can you say the first part of that again?
What has been your top 3 favorite memories since you started coaching me?
Well, okay, up there has got to be the dab.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna add the dab.
Emily has become an expert dabber. Like when you get to the bottom part of the hill, she starts just dabbing left and right, get a little extra speed at the end.
Yeah, it does. It's kind of neat how it makes you more like faster in the bottom of the hill. It's kind of cool.
And I mean, okay, so I mean that's a classic. But I mean, one of my other favorite memories, maybe it's not a specific memory, it's just watching how much you've improved over the last couple of years. I mean, seeing you go from bowler and now being able to go out west, no problem, right? How much more comfortable you've gotten going on black diamond runs, right? And getting through tighter turns through the race course setups, right?
Yeah.
And having better control of your edges, right?
Yes.
I think that's been really exciting for me. And then I think another one is just being a part of the track 3 environment too.
Gotcha.
Right? Because I mean that's almost a whole community in of itself.
Yeah.
And things going for our hot chocolates when we have our breaks and spend some time with Darlene and everyone, right?
Yeah.
That's always a fun time.
That is always a fun time. And Darling is always filled with kisses when we come in.
Yes.
I think she really likes the snow too, so I think she's tried to like keep the snow off of my boots and stuff before.
Well, maybe we'll have to get Darling on the snowboard at some point too and try and do a doggy snowboard.
There you go.
That could be interesting.
She's doing stand-up paddleboarding now, so I mean it's similar, sort of.
Oh yeah? Well, I mean we're halfway there then.
Right? Awesome. What have you learned from coaching a blind snowboarding athlete or another person with varying abilities?
I think one of the big learnings I've had, or at least realizations, right, is that you shouldn't have to limit what people can do, right? Because I mean, at first thought you're like, well, if someone's blind, they're probably gonna have trouble snowboarding, right? Like, how are they gonna see the hill? But I don't think I don't think people should be thinking like that, because it really is possible, and you can excel at it actually. Because I mean, look at you now. You're better than a lot of snowboarders I know, right? So I mean, just to be open.
A lot of hard work.
Well, a lot of hard work, right? But I mean, with anything that you want to practice and get better at, you need to put in hard work. And I mean, anyone who wants to get good at snowboarding needs to put in a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I mean, I think it's just don't limit yourself to what people think is or isn't possible.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I like that. Awesome. In your opinion, what are some ways snowboarders can train during the off season when they can't be on snow? And do you have any favorite training activities that you like to do in the off season?
Oh, well, I know what you like to do. For me, I mean, growing up, I was always in other sports, as I kind of mentioned, right? So, I mean, in a sense, I think doing other activity is a form of cross training, right? Keeping your cardio up.
Yeah, definitely.
I think a good one is weight training as well, and that's what I'm doing a lot more nowadays. Now that I'm out of my youth sports days a bit, but I think staying active in the gym, keeping your legs strong, because snowboarding, I mean, especially when you get up in big mountains, is really hard on your legs.
It's really hard on your legs and really hard on your feet too.
Exactly.
So now we're doing a lot of work on my feet to make sure they're strong enough to make sure I can get through the winter and everything. So
yeah, that's great. Because I mean, your feet are tensed up, right? And your legs are tensed and flexing and working that whole time. So you get a lot of lactic acid build up. So I mean, anything you can do in the gym and you know, either running or weightlifting, some squats, get your legs going.
Yeah.
It's all gonna help you.
For sure. Awesome. And then last question for you. What is your hope for the future of para snowboarding?
Oh, I think my hope is that it's gonna continue to evolve into you know, an Olympic sport and something that a lot more people are taking part in, right?
Yeah.
I think it's awesome that snowboarders like you have kind of pushed the boundaries a bit in what people realize is possible and will expect from that sport. And I know a lot of people tend to go towards skiing, but I think opening the door to snowboarding is another really exciting thing that gives, you know, para snowboarders or blind snowboarders an exciting opportunity to try something new.
Yeah.
Because I mean, maybe they'll end up liking snowboarding better, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe they like something new, and I guess that's okay. But you know, giving them the opportunity, right, and to continue to see places like Track 3 and other programs that are similar, you know, open up at different hills and provide those opportunities. And I'd like to see also the creation of, you know, some more clubs and teams that are helping athletes like you, right, that are more competitive and really trying to push the limits, right?
Yeah, I recently heard that CADS and Canada Snowboard, they're starting up a program to help with snowboarders across Canada. So that was really exciting to hear that. That's definitely huge for the sport of para snowboarding. So that was really exciting to hear. So it's a very exciting time for the sport of para snowboarding. So
yeah, for sure. And I think it has, I mean, there's a lot of potential, right?
Definitely.
A lot of room to grow.
For sure. Awesome. Any final thoughts, Isaac, before we end this off?
Oh, let's see.
Anything?
I don't know if I have any other final thoughts in particular, other than I just hope that your season out west, because I mean, I guess it's kind of one of our first seasons that we're not going to get to snowboard together since COVID, right? And you moved out there, so I hope that you're going to have an awesome season out there, and I'm sure you have some great coaches out there that are going to take good care of you and bring you up to the next level on those bigger hills. And hopefully I'll get out with Ethan and we can come up and go for some.
That'd be amazing. Yeah, that'd be amazing. Anytime you guys can come up, that would be awesome. Yeah, and it's going to be an exciting year. I just finished getting all registered for the race team for this upcoming winter, so got to meet the race director, and then I'll get to meet my permanent coaches soon. So
that's amazing.
Sounds like I'm going to have a few coaches. So yeah, thank you. All right, Isaac, thank you so much for coming on to the Shredding for Gold podcast. It was awesome interviewing you and catching up with you, and we will talk again soon, and we'll shred it up soon again. And don't worry, I will keep working on my data.
I love it. Thanks so much, Emily. It's good chatting.